system.
Keep the headset off for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another very special episode of the phenomenon known to mankind as Saturday afternoon's main event. You had alert. You know, something about things happening in the span of a week. You know, not much wrestling related, right? But you know, guys, I'm coming off of a Thursday spent with your uncle, Triple C, basking in the Manhattan sun, enjoying what is a championship title for the first time in 53 years. And I can finally say that the New York Knicks are reigning and defending NBA champions. What a joy that was. And now coming off an 18-hour bus ride back to same studios here in Atlanta, I'm here doing this show for you. But in all duality, that shouldn't be an issue. Because for those of you that do not know who I am, whether you are dumb, stupid, blind, or just plain irrelevant, I suggest you tune back to the show last week. Because it was I that was here on Same Solo Dolo. No one here but myself, pulling through for an hour, doing this damn show. So you might as well give me my respect, give me my pats, and refer to me as the one and individual that you can go ahead and know right there, because I am the phenomenal one. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome. But surprisingly, unlike last week, I have my co-host, my comrade, my brother from another mother and dimension. Guys, he is the one and only limousine rider, jet flyer, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun, who's not having a hard time holding his alligator staff. So as the hat stays on like this, might as well go ahead and ask you guys to give me 2 claps and a peep stitch. Woo! Where you been?
Yes, I'm back here with my partner. Last week, I was at a wedding in Pennsylvania. A very good friend of mine who I've known for well over 20 years got married. Congratulations to him and his new wife. And I watched the show that you did last week. First and foremost, right now, you are the man. You were able to do this by yourself. Right. Yes, you did. Yes, you were the man. You were able to do everything on your own. You did a great job, my friend. So I definitely have to say, that's why you are the phenomenal one.
Say it louder, peeps. Say it loud. You know what?
Yes.
You damn right. You are absolutely right, peeps. You know what? I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that.
Yes.
But all in all, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you.
Beyond all, of course, like you usually say, guys, we're here to give you laughs, good times, and all the rest of you possible on a perfect Saturday afternoon on a day like this. This is what's merited for you guys, the fans of professional wrestling. But beyond all, if you're tuning in, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, we thank you. We appreciate you. Go ahead and follow us on our social media platforms. Instagram being at Saturday Afternoons _main event. Twitter being Saturday Main. And of course, our TikTok being Saturday Afternoons ME. Well, peeps, I think it's only fair that we go ahead and get started with today's show. Am I right?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, no problem. Well, look, guys, you know when you hear this sound, it's time for one thing and one thing only. Guys, it is time for 3 rope talk, all of the professional wrestling news that you can possibly get that consists within the span of the squared circle. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started today with our Raw and SmackDown review. Coming off the heels of many celebrations for a lot of New Yorkers, we had Monday Night Raw to go ahead and tune into. And let me just say this. This bloodline story, it'll never end. We are witnessing it, rinse and repeat. First and foremost, beyond anything else. Roman Reigns comes out, has Jacob finally acknowledge him, puts on a special Ulafala for the Samoan Werewolf, and then proceeds to allow the Samoan Werewolf beat down on one Eric Andre who was sitting in the crowd and just wanted to touch the Ulafala. And when many other producers and other backstage people chose to stop Jacob from doing it, and Roman seemed like he was genuinely on the heels of having Jacob calm down, he then remembered, I'm the tribal chief. Jacob, proceed. And that is exactly what Jacob Fatu proceeded to do. Lay waste to Eric Andre. But look, I've said this once, I've said this twice, I've said this so many times, I said it last week. Peeps, when it comes down to it, how is it that we're going to sit here and have a rinse and repeat of this whole bloodline story without a payoff? What do you think is the payoff here when it comes down to Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu and the whole bloodline?
To tell you the truth, I think what they're aiming at right now is that they're trying to consolidate the rest of the bloodline again, which is something we talked about again. And I think that they have started something a little bit different in the fact that it's different but the same. Different in the fact that Jacob Fatu is now playing the role of Solo Sikoa from 2 years ago. And the fact that he's now the hired enforcer. He's the guy that wants to be the heir apparent, so to speak. The guy that wants to be the guy that is only listening to one person, and that is to Roman Reigns. And as we saw, Roman basically turned him into his personal attack dog and sicked him on someone. And this is not going to be the first time that this happens. It's definitely not going to be the last time it happens. The problem is it's happened too often with this storyline. This is just 2.0 or 3.0. I forgot what version this is. It was like Matt Hardy version 3 or version 2 or whatever heck that he was calling himself. It's the same thing. Yeah. Yes. It's one of those. Yeah. Who knows?
Can we get Shannon Moore to beat a Sami Zayn in this situation then?
Yeah. That's what we need to get.
So. But beyond all, look, we'll see where they go ahead and come down when it comes down to that. But all in all, we had the King of the Ring semifinals to go ahead and get to. Obafemi advances and beats the living daylights out of the greatest Triple A Mega Campeon. Not my boy yet. But the King of the Luchadors, Dominic Mysterio. I think we all preceded that this was going to happen. Oba is now in the King of the Ring finals, but still no sight of Brock Lesnar. I think we all know where this is going to lead to, right?
Yes.
So, peeps, I guess there's that to go ahead and say when it comes down to that. But Chad Gable, of course, still trying to go ahead and claim his reigns as a full-on babyface for the people and respectful to what is Lucha Libre. Now going up against Rusev. We saw how that turned out. Of course, Javon Evans having to go ahead and face Austin Theory. Logan Paul trying to get Evans to join the Vision for some reason, which I still don't get that. The Queen, Charlotte Flair, ends up going ahead and beating Roxanne Perez. All in all, when it comes down to it, this wasn't a bad episode of Raw. But what did you feel was lacking out of this, peeps?
It seems to me, as far as what Raw was going on, the direction that they're going is that they're trying to build the back half of Night of Champions on the last couple of weeks of Raw. That's what I think this is what's happening here. I think if you're looking at what they're trying to do, they're trying to fill that area that they did not get a chance to flesh out and do it here. The Bloodline, they're top heavy. They're all over the place as far as what they're trying to do. So I guess we know that what they're doing there. Chad Gable, what I like is that they're doing his redemption arc, where they know that he has to try and get that mea culpa ready for, we know, Maxine and Otis and Tozawa. We know that that's coming at some point. That's where I think that the payoff of that part of the story is. In the long run, to get him that push, because what a lot of people don't realize, he's from Minnesota also. And maybe there is a payoff for him at SummerSlam coming back into the fold as Chad Gable. So I think that's where they're headed with that. As far as fleshing out certain other things with Raw, they're kind of on cruise control, given the fact that, as you just stated, the Vision, they're up and down. They're all over the place, mostly because of injuries and trying to figure out what they're going to do there.
All right. Well, that was Monday Night Raw for you, ladies and gentlemen. But when it proceeds that we move away from Raw, we can go ahead and now get to SmackDown, where most of the colossal stuff happened. And that pertains, of course, with your WWE Undisputed Champion, the one and only American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, going up against Gunther in a title match, which had Sami Zayn as the special guest referee. Now, I think a lot of people went ahead and saw what happened with that when it pertained to Sami Zayn, and when it pertained to the match itself, we got a no contest. Why is that, peeps?
To stretch it out. I think that's kind of what it is. The match was about as good. We know that Walter and Cody have good chemistry in ring. That's not even an issue. The question is right now, what do they do going forward with that? And the way that they did the match was about as predictable as was going to be, considering that they were going for what was it? The first half hour or so was commercial free for the entirety of the match. So yeah, that's what they did.
And when it pertains to it, and as we saw all this go ahead and get spoken to by Cody and by Gunther. We saw there was a run back. We saw all these different types of other shenanigans. Cody getting sick of it, going back, getting the match restarted, Zayn disagreeing with it, Gunther going ahead and beating the holy hell out of Zayn, then going back to the match, still getting a no contest with that.
Yeah.
In all duality, I have to say, when it pertains to this, I like it. The reason why I like it is because now something is genuinely being benefited out of when it comes down to the SmackDown roster and the main event and the world title. Cody Rhodes now has definite, real graps. There is an edge to the American Nightmare. There's an edge to Gunther, but also there is an edge to Sami Zayn, who is now beginning this whole new good guy gimmick, although he is more pertained as a heel to the people. Or actually, I should requote that. The people! The people. But all in all, we now know that this means that all three men will be in a triple threat at Night of Champions for the WWE title.
Yes.
The real question is, does Cody walk out as champion, peeps?
If they are smart and they really want an edge going in, yeah, people are going to look at me crazy about this. They put the belt on Sami and they would do it at Night of Champions. Tell you the reason why. First off, the reason why it would, if they're going to do something like this, although I doubt it will, but if they did, here's the benefits. When they're in Saudi, Sami's hugely over in Saudi. Second of all, we know that going in, there needs to be some kind of push for this main event part where they've forced this triple threat. They're building Sami Zayn slowly as this heel. He reminds me a lot of, if you remember Chris Jericho when he was calling himself the best in the world, and he was a heel, but all he was doing was telling the truth. The promo that he gave in the back with all this about how I did what I was supposed to do. You didn't want me to be the referee, but I'm the referee. I called it down the middle until somebody hit me. That build that they're using for Sami, it's working because his personality is coming through in this whole, I'm conflicted. I have fans. I'm a friend of Cody's, but Cody is the golden boy. They're going back and forth with this. Walter, on the other hand, is just pissed off at everybody. And it works in his favor to see where this goes. So if they wanted to be different and get this storyline over in a way that would work to some degree, that could be done. Whether they pull the trigger on it or not, that's a completely different story. But I think that the way that they've been developing Sami's character over these last few weeks and the conflict between Cody and Sami works, especially now.
All in all, I can understand to some degree, but I feel as if you got hit on the head last week when you went AWOL. Because are you serious? You're choosing Sami Zayn over your golden boy Walter to win the world title at Night of Champions.
I don't think it's going to happen. But like I said before, if they want to do something different to carry in to their next premium live event, if they wanted to do that, that could be something that they would go ahead and do. All right, Sami, we've all bemoaned the fact that Sami had gotten this push in the first place. But now that he's gotten this push, it's starting to actually work. The fans are really getting behind the idea of Sami being a heel. The fans are getting behind the fact that there is some now conflict going there. And the other part of this that was the added benefit of this is that the fans are now even more on Cody's side, which is what they're looking for to try to keep the boos away from Cody as he was getting over the last few months prior. And this seems to be working.
Now, when it comes down to Sami having the world title, I agree with you to an extent, peeps, because if you had watched the show last week, which I hope you did, alongside everybody else,
yes,
I know individuals heard me when I said this about Sami Zayn as it pertains to this new look and this new gimmick and this new persona that is now etched into the minds of individuals when we talk about Sami Zayn. It is that it is a long feud. This is a long-term payoff situation. Yes. I cannot see Sami going ahead and holding the world title. I feel like when you look at these three men and you're looking at this match, you have to go ahead and pin down three things. Two of them are where the real feud starts. Cody and Sami. If you're going to develop Sami Zayn into more of a hated individual, although he has reasoning as to why he is still considered a good guy, you have him work with Cody Rhodes. And the way that you do that is by getting the title off of Cody, but not out by giving it to the hands of Sami Zayn. It is by giving it to Gunther. Gunther is the odd man out of the situation. He isn't no odd man in. We have been seeing the last couple of weeks with the development of Sami and Cody. We saw Cody go ahead and slap the living daylights out of Sami, to Sami trying to go ahead and, seem conflicted, but also standing strong within his thought process and how he feels. Through all in duality. Come Night of Champions, I look at it and I say, we see Sami cost Cody the match, but Gunther pins Sami. You keep Cody hot, you have the title on Gunther, and you have Sami Zayn still in the position where now Cody is looking at him as the reason why he lost the title. We have always said Cody's better at the chase than he is holding the title. We can make the statement for a lot of individuals when it comes down to that. But all in all, Sami Zayn right now is at the cornerstone of a story where Cody Rhodes is now reaching a character arc where he's becoming more aggressive. How do you make the people cheer more? By having Cody Rhodes have this edge. How do you keep that momentum? By letting Cody Rhodes continue to build an edge. How does Cody Rhodes continue to build an edge? Start his storyline with Sami Zayn, having Sami Zayn be the one to cost him this match. They were close to pulling it off with Jacob Fatu when Drew McIntyre won in that steel cage match. But guess what? We didn't fully go ahead and get to that. We never got that match. Instead, we saw what they did en route to WrestleMania, having him go ahead and win back the title, face Randy Orton, and then we got that cluster. Right now, you actually build off of Cody Rhodes trying to get back to the chase. You build off of this persona that Cody currently has. And if you're going to do it right, you do it with him and Zayn, and you promote that for the next couple of months, leading into SummerSlam by chance, and possibly ending it there.
That's what makes sense.
But all in all, appreciate you for that, peeps. But again, you need to get that head checked. I don't trust it. I just don't trust it.
Yeah,
but
all
in all, we now know that also at Night of Champions, Tiffany Stratton will be defending her Women's United States Championship against Jade Cargill. And I've said this again, once and momentarily, every single Saturday, we see what they're doing with Jade Cargill. I like that she talks about, being taken out of the Queen of the Ring tournament and wanting to see what is next for her. And what did she do? She issued a challenge to Tiff. Tiff accepted. We're getting that match at Night of Champions.
Yes.
If it means that you're going to go ahead and put the Women's United States title on Jade Cargill, great. but is it going to build her? That's my question to WWE. Is it going to build Jade Cargill? Are we going to go ahead and get the dynamic of this whole baddie section finally being put into works? Are we going to go ahead and see B-Fab and Mitchin possibly go ahead and take the title off of Brie and Paige? Is that what we're going to? Because if anything, if they wanted to make this the hottest women's faction on SmackDown right now and in the WWE as of today, they could have done it a while back post WrestleMania. Instead, we still haven't gotten that. If this is what begins it, then so be it. I would like to see that if there's a chance that we get to Night of Champions, it ends with Jade Cargill holding women's gold once more and taking it off Tiff.
Yes.
You agree with me, peeps?
And I agree. And also the fact that where I think this is headed to is I think at SummerSlam this is heading to Charlotte and Jade Cargill. I think that's what the end game is for that part of it, to then build that feud going forward. Because I think that everybody knows that Charlotte is she's still Charlotte Flair. And the way that you have building this 15, 16, 17 time championship run that they want to then put on her is to lengthen it as long as possible and keep reiterating the fact that she hasn't had championship gold in over a year, 2 years, etc. So that when she does have a title win, it's more significant. Why not do that and have her in a secondary title run against another hot feud and put that in there with somebody like Jade Cargill, where you're getting Jade over with her group. They get a lot of gold, and then they start to do all of the things that they need to do. Case in point, what they did at the end with Jade beating up Charlotte and going after her injured knee. And that is how you tune up the heel Jade Cargill and her baddie section.
Okay. Now, moving away from Michin and B-Fab, from one tag team to another, we move now towards the War Raiders. Now, I think you already know where I'm getting to this, and maybe a lot of people already know where I'm getting to this. Last night, we saw Tala and Tama Tonga going up against Damian Priest and R-Truth. What we got during that match was Priest and Truth retaining their tag team titles, but also the War Raiders being shown backstage looking on at the match as the AAA tag team champions. And I think we always talk about this when it comes down to WWE, and they do a bad job of showing things prior. To the average viewer who wouldn't know that the War Raiders are AAA tag team champions, how would you proceed to allow that being shown? Oh, maybe a video package showing that they actually won the titles?
A vignette, maybe?
A vignette? Something of that matter where these two men are now talking about why they're bringing in dominance to the main roster back on SmackDown, knowing that they're carrying the titles of one other company? I mean, geez, Dominic Mysterio every single week on Raw walks around with the belt knowing that he's the face of AAA. And we know that he's the AAA Mega Champion. We know how he won it. We know how he goes up against Vikingo every now and then just to retain. Yet, you guys couldn't do that for the War Raiders. And AEW has this problem too, which we will get to sooner rather than later when it comes down to our AEW Dynamite review. But all in all, WWE needs to do a better job when it comes down to the promotion of certain brands, when it comes down to the promotion of your main roster people holding other belts from subsidiary companies that you own. Fix that. Hopefully they do. That's all I can pray for. But that is that. And when it pertains towards Priest and Truth, what is it that we're doing with the tag team titles? It feels like a stalemate on both shows. Where is the ambiance? Where is the sense of having the match, but no changes? There is staleness in R-Truth and Damian Priest being tag team champions. Why do I say that? Because it feels like they're trying to make the most of this for R-Truth by giving him a title, knowing that he probably has a year left in his contract. And Damian Priest, former world champion and an individual who was more known for his singles competition in separate matches with Drew McIntyre, Elimination Chamber, all of these different other matches. And you're telling me now that you delegate him to the tag team division. What are we doing here? What is it that we have to subsidize with the WWE to tell them that they need to change certain things? Why not showcase other tag teams? Why not allow the tag team championship to be shown on a sense where there is value to it? As of right now, I don't feel value with the SmackDown WWE tag team titles. I don't.
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you the reason why. They decimated the tag team division with all those cuts. And the only other real tag team that's there that could probably do something are the Street Profits. And the Profits right now, they're on Raw trying to avenge Seth Rollins in that feud. So the teams that they would have had that would have kind of fleshed out the tag team division, they're all over the place. And the ones that should win the belts have not. It's the MFTs, it's Priest and Truth, and everybody else. The War Raiders, which a lot of people forgot were even in the company, they don't even promote, except for what they showed on television this week. So that's the problem, is the fact that if you're going to have a tag team championship on Raw and on SmackDown, it would behoove the company to have tag teams that are actually competing for tag team title shots and not just the same tag teams. That's what I would start, and then I would move from there. But I digress.
Well then, first one of the day. Shocking that it's coming from you. I need to ask, did you keep my I digress counter from last week?
You got 5. You got 5 last week.
Why? Thank you. You were watching the show. As for everybody, you can go back to watch that show again. Last week was such a doozy, but all in all, when we come down to SmackDown, there's one more thing that I feel as if I have to cover, and that is the other semifinal match for the King of the Ring. Of course, Javon Evans, Jey Uso. Jey Uso is now heading to the King of the Ring finals against Obafemi at Night of Champions.
Yes.
This is set in stone. This is happening. Now, we know that Brock Lesnar is lingering in the shadows. We know that this will mean one thing and one thing only. Jey Uso is going to become King of the Ring, which means now we will finally get Jey Uso versus presumably maybe Cody Rhodes or Gunther, or like the Peeps Nate just said, Lord of mercy, Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
At SummerSlam. What a way to build a character arc for Jey Uso, although I think I have to quote the final boss for a second back in 1999. Dear God, my name's Jay, and I just won King of the Ring. But there's one problem. Everybody still thinks that I absolutely suck. That's how I feel about Jey Uso on my television screen. It feels like I'm watching Chris Jericho run back the Jericho Appreciation Society or the Learning Tree sitting there in front of my television screen. Hi, guys. What is this? This is your warning shot. Bow. Yeet. What is this? What is this? This is some type of retard convention that I'm attending every single week on WWE television. No one cares. No one. And yet when you have to be conflicted over what they're doing with Roman Reigns and Jacob, then you have Jay, who's sitting there becoming a tweener, and Prince is around talking about winning championship gold, although he's looked at as the little one of the family being disrespected over and over and over again, just for him to now get a single shot, win King of the Ring, and then what's going to happen? What, they're going to put the title on Jay? Like we haven't seen that happen before. Are you serious right now?
Yeah.
How do you feel? Although I should be asking you how you feel. You know what? For the betterment of understanding that you're my co-host, I am going to ask you, how do you feel about this whole Jey Uso situation?
I think the WWE just can't quit Jey Uso. They can't quit him. It's one of those things where you see Jey Uso because of all of the yeeting, all of the popularity, all the merchandising, and there seems to be a reluctance to fully pull him away from the main event scene, just enough that they figure he still has a little bit of the main event parts of him as far as the mind share of the fan base. That's about it. We know in ring he's good up to a point. We know as a singular world champion was not good at all. And that run that he had was very disappointing. But I think that knowing that he is still connected to Bloodline 3.0 or whatever version this is right now, the fans kind of resent the fact that he's in these finals, especially after the fact that he pinned LA Knight to get to that point. And I think now going forward, a lot of people are looking at what are they doing with LA Knight, but Jey Uso in particular, I think the fans, at least online, resent Jey Uso and the fact that his push is gone, continued the way it is right now. That's where I think that they are. And I think the WWE right now is banking on the fans being very ambivalent to this push right now. They're still going and cheering and yeeting for him, but overall, I don't think they care online as much for Jey being in this spot. And I think they're going to play off of it.
We have yet to see what they do with that then. But all in all, that is our Raw and SmackDown review. Guys, we move from Raw and SmackDown to now All Elite Wrestling. Of course, AEW Dynamite taking place this past Wednesday. Let's talk about it. MJF aligns himself with the Don Callis family to pick his team of people. That now makes how many individuals in the Don Callis family?
I think the last time I counted it was at 37. But I could be wrong. That's the last time I checked.
Why do we need this dynamic? Is it just to tell a story with MJF and Andrade leading up to MJF's match at All In against Will Ospreay? Because we know that's where they're treading. Is that what's supposed to be the payoff towards this? What's your thought process?
Well, the MJF thing is all about his ego. We know that there's going to be I believe it's a 12-man cage match that they're going to do at Forbidden Door. So I think that's where the idea of this match came from, as the participants from this match that happened on Dynamite are going to be the same people that are going to be in the cage match at Forbidden Door. So that's where they're headed in that aspect. As far as that goes, it is a bit much to try to build MJF and Andrade when they have so many other dynamic people within that trying to go after a world title in the company, and MJF holding off whoever it is. But I think that's the dynamic that they were going for, and it's hit or miss depending on what you're looking for in that.
Okay. The match of the night, considered for a lot of people, and I myself, Mercedes Moné versus Hazuki in the women's tournament semifinal for the Owen Hart Cup, in which Moné, of course, proceeded to win that match. Now, in all sense, I felt like this was much like the match with Brodito versus the Death Riders that happened early on within the show, because this match lasted long enough to need 2 commercial breaks, which isn't very common in AEW nowadays.
Yes.
But I felt that with the combination of near falls where you felt like it was the end of the match, towards the end to having Mercedes Moné win by submission, is one of those ways where you could sit there and say to yourself, okay, this was a futuristic match. This was just as good as their previous encounters. And the fact that Tony Khan allowed these women to take their time to develop the match all throughout the show for the amount of time that they were facing each other was great. And I feel that if you didn't watch this match, go back to watch. It wasn't something for you to be disappointed about. And you wouldn't be disappointed because guess what? Like last week, if you didn't feel any way about the Phenomenal One going ahead and having the show and doing it live for the first time ever, solo dolo, then you can take my word for it. Because tell me when I'm telling lies, this match certainly did not disappoint. Peeps, am I right?
100%. 100%.
I know I'm right, Peeps. Thank you very much, my friend. But that is AEW Dynamite. We can move from there. Of course, it wasn't one of those shows where you had to sit there and watch, but you had your matches where you could sit there and enjoy. I felt like it was another match that's just trying to build up a Forbidden Door, which, of course, Forbidden Door is just another show that builds towards All In. So all in all, this was just another show being another show on a Wednesday.
There was one point. There was one point on the show that did really well that built up to Forbidden Door, and that was the tournament final with Will Ospreay and Swerve, which is going to be the final at Forbidden Door. And the promo battle that they had, basically it revolved around the fact that Swerve and wondering why there's this beef between the two of them. And Swerve made a lot of sense in his promo, and the fact that he was telling Will Ospreay that he sacrificed an entire year of going after the world championship to make sure that they got the belt off of Moxley and the Death Riders last year, at the behest of seeing Will Ospreay getting his neck broken and knowing that they had to get that belt off of Moxley for then Will Ospreay to seemingly be allies with the Death Riders, which still to this day makes no sense to me. But I'm going to digress on that one also. That's number 2. If you're looking at it from this sense...
You're certainly trying to make up for last week, are you, peeps?
I guess so. But if you're looking at it from the sense of the promo that they did, they really got in each other's faces. It got really personal to the extent that Swerve pulled out a chain and looked like he was ready to beat Will Ospreay down until the Death Riders came and saved Ospreay. So there's that personal aspect of it that they built in that promo, which I think was really well done. It might have been a little bit too long, but I think it worked for what they were building for Forbidden Door.
You say the words a little too long. Doesn't that sound like Peep Stage to you when he has to go ahead and bring up the 80s here on national television when it comes down the same? I mean, this is shocking to hear. You thought it was a little too long?
Yes, a little too long, yes. Walk on me.
Take this hat off me and just call me the Phenomenal Zero, because what the hell are we talking about here when it pertains to me? But you know what? When it comes down to Swerve and Ospreay, I felt like MJF had a lot to say when it came down to them and his war of words between the two, although he didn't have to go ahead and stand in front of them and say it. And I feel that he's building up this half of the match knowing that either he can go ahead and send Swerve back into the calling card, or he could go ahead and end up breaking Ospreay's neck. Whatever genuinely happens, I'm in tune to seeing what happens at All In. Whoever comes out winning, although I think we all know the end-all be-all is Ospreay MJF, I feel like the match at Forbidden Door will be a doozy to watch. Maybe there will be enough storytelling in it for us to figure out what exactly is going on. And maybe, hell, who knows? Maybe by All In, because I still hear lingerings about Hangman Adam Page for some reason. Maybe Hangman shows up in London to cost MJF the title. Would it be a bad thing to see as of right now when we currently get all of the stuff that we're getting from AEW? But speaking about all the stuff, I had to go ahead and deliver them last week. You're back.
Yes.
So, peeps, give us the ratings.
I will give you the ratings, but it will be minus AEW because they haven't listed their ratings for the second time in 4 weeks. The ratings haven't been up for our show. So here's where we go. I'll give you the ratings for Collision. I'll give you the ratings for NXT, and I'll give you the ratings there for SmackDown. First off,
proceed.
Yes. NXT, 610,000 with a 0.09 in the demo, which is actually pretty good considering last week they were at 548. So they did a pretty good jump from week to week. We'll get the AEW stuff whenever it comes in, probably for next week's show, and we'll get it in there. Collision, they increased, it was a decrease from the last week. They got 364,000 with a 0.04 in the demo for their show. Now, interestingly enough, SmackDown, they had a small decrease over the last week. Last week was 1.09 million. They did 1.04 million with a 0.20 in the demo. So the demos dropped, and they had a small drop in the ratings as well. I wonder why that happened for SmackDown.
You wonder why. It's funny, considering the fact that the NBA Finals ended on Saturday, and you think that television is supposed to go back to what it is. Obviously, that's not the case. Wrestling is just dying as it pertains to the WWE. Nothing is lacking in a sense. And you know what? For All Elite Wrestling, I think we can just go ahead and put the sub 500 marker up because, of course, everybody watches on HBO now. Everybody watches on Max. So get the max numbers, peeps. If you can't
Yeah.
get the regular numbers, for God's sake, do your job and get the max numbers.
Yeah,
Jeez,
we'll get the
Gordon
max.
Brady's just on the block.
Yes,
Come on.
we'll get the max numbers as soon as they upload them. There you go.
Okay. Well, anywho, that marks the end of our ratings here on Saturday afternoon's main event. Guys, that's the end of the first half. We now go ahead and go into the second half of our show with our question of the week. Last week's came from Tombstone City Adam, and he gave in a perfectly great question that I certainly loved answering. If you didn't go ahead and watch it, go back to watch it. I'm telling you, it was certainly a great question to answer. But we now have Long Island Isaiah to counter off of it. And he says this. He says, to add to TCA's question last week and seeing Cody's current feud, should they ditch the quick hot stories for Cody since they haven't shown much payoff, i.e. Drew and Randy? Yes. Yes. I want you to take a list down of some of the current champions that you have seen in your lifetime. Peeps, that goes for you, even though we're going to go ahead and have to go back to the 1800s. Your ass is old. But, when it pertains down to, for you, maybe the Buddy Rogers and the superstar Billy Grahams, have mercy.
Yes, the Frank Gotches and the Hockey Schmidts and all those guys. Yeah.
Exactly. But when it comes down to us, of course, the Austins, the Cenas, the Edges, the Takers, the JBLs, you can all pin down one feud that took up a long duration to where you wanted to sit there and see what the payoff would be. JBL's reign of terror back in 04 into 05, with him having to face The Undertaker, Booker T, Eddie Guerrero, all within different months, just for him to go ahead and finally edge down towards, I believe it was Judgment Day, with all of them being in a fatal four-way for the WWE title, which still ended with JBL winning the damn thing. Just for him to drop the title months later to John Cena, which began a new era for the WWE as it pertains to John Cena winning his first WWE title at WrestleMania. Triple H's reign of terror. Oh, that was long. Coincided with everybody going up against him in the Elimination Chamber.
Are we sure that's still not going on right now with his reign of terror?
You know what? To in part with that, I think this is currently him and TKO's reign of terror, but more TKO than anything else. But as it pertains to it, we got that ending with Batista going ahead and defeating him at WrestleMania. But still, we didn't end there because it stretched into Vengeance in that Hell in a Cell where Batista still came out the winner. But you see, long term, that's the key. That's the memento. See, Cody Rhodes hasn't had a long feud as a champion. If you're counting long feuds with the championship involved, then we're only sitting there looking at him versus the bloodline that spanned 2 years. But after that, what was it? What has it been? It's been short, hot feuds with big stars to try to get Cody over. Is it working? Are the fans liking it? Not so much. You're getting a lot of backlash from people about it. Ratings drop every single time Cody Rhodes shows up on a TV screen for individuals. What is it that we're doing when it comes down to people not wanting to watch SmackDown? There isn't something for people to latch on to for Cody Rhodes being champion right now, for you to sit there and be like, okay, what is mattering in this storyline that's Cody Rhodes being champion and this challenger? They're just going to roughshod it, make it quick, and have Cody still come out the winner. But now, like I said, Sammy, Cody, you can stretch this out. You can continue to build more of an edge for Cody. If it means that he's still going to hold the title, you can still build an edge. The reality is, Cody right now is going to have a feud that stretches. It's not minimalistic. It's not anything coming quick from the mouth of Triple H saying, "Oh, this is what we do. Put Cody in a quick feud." No, this isn't any of that. Now there is structure. Now there is value. Now your lives have meaning because Cody Rhodes is about to have a long story feud. Where does it go from here? We have yet to see. But in all duality, I feel that they should genuinely ditch quick, hot storylines for Cody Rhodes. Peeps Nate, answer the question on your behalf for yourself.
And I tell you what the common denominator in those two feuds that you brought up prior to talking about Cody was. The champion was a heel. Heels genuinely have longer title reigns because they have a longer opportunity to build the fans' interest in seeing them lose the belt. You have to have a great protagonist and a great antagonist. And if the protagonist is the person that is there, that is going to be the one chasing, then the antagonist has to be the guy that is going to be worthy of you seeing them get their head kicked in on a weekly basis. And when you have Cody as the champ, as I said before, and as my partner said before, and we've talked about this ad nauseum for years, when you have a heel at the top of the card, especially the way that they did with Roman, they've done it with Brock, they've done it with JBL, they've done it with Triple H, and so many other really good heel champions. The stories build when the heel is at the top of the card, and you have a great, seemingly a baby face that the fans can get behind. A baby face that you can go ahead and say, we're going to build, we want to see win, we want to see how far this goes, and see them topple the champ. That's usually the formula. Cody's a little bit different in the sense that for about 3 years, he's been the face of the company. And the WWE has been reluctant to pull the, I'm going to turn him heel deal. Will it happen at some point? Maybe. But with JBL, and we've talked about all those other aspects of it, you have that one great galvanizing heel that everybody hates. We don't have that right now with WWE as far as that goes on SmackDown. At least not yet.
At least not yet. But when it pertains down to this, here's where I think this can genuinely make sense. If you're going to keep the title on Cody and you're going to make this some quick feud for Cody to go ahead and get roughshod over, why not we implement the same thing that Vince McMahon implemented for John Cena? Having a conniving heel end up winning the title off of him due to some sort of shenanigan. Didn't Edge win the Elimination Chamber at New Year's Revolution by beating John Cena? A battered and bruised and bloody John Cena?
Yes.
How did that feud go? Wasn't John Cena the champion at the time? Wasn't he the face?
Yes, he was.
And that feud went long, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Culminating at Vengeance with Cena finally retaining the title?
Yes.
Even though they were playing hot potato with it from the Rumble into SummerSlam and so on and so forth. But You see where I'm getting here.
Yes.
If Jey Uso ends up winning King of the Ring and you want to go ahead and have Jey Uso go up against Cody Rhodes, there is a story to tell there. Although I don't think there is no implementation needed for Pat McAfee or Jelly Roll or any other celebrity that you want to go ahead and stuff up in there. There is genuine, real storyline value. They were a tag team together. They respected each other. They went up to defeat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 together by helping Cody Rhodes do that. There is a story to tell here. And if you do it right, maybe this is the beginning of something good, not only for Jey Uso, but for Cody Rhodes. But again, I'm not the one writing booking here. Triple H, listen up. Oh, I digress. I think my first one for today. But you know what? You've been helping enough by going ahead and at least catching up from last week, Pete. So I appreciate you for that. But guys, that was our question of the week. Long Island Isaiah, respect to you. Thank you, my friend. If you guys want to go ahead and send in your question and you think that it's just that damn good in the words of Triple H, send it in to our Instagram at Saturday Afternoons_main event. DM us. And once more, if we think it's good, in the words of JBL, I guarantee it'll be on the next episode of the show. With that being said, we now move to the last piece and last topic for today's show. And that is about TNA. Will TNA sell to the WWE? I think that's been the rumor, that's been the swirl going around for the last week. It seems as if Total Nonstop Action is preparing for a sell. It just looks like it. I mean, why else would they genuinely generate a television deal with AMC? Considering how television has been for TNA, considering how production has been, considering how they're not fully utilizing the roster at every single step, you would think that this means that we're about to have another subsidiary in the WWE triangle. They have AAA, they have, Evolve, they have NXT. Now to think that they would go ahead and now add in TNA. It seems like they're trying to build their own subsidiary Forbidden Door in their own hearts. Peeps, what is it that you're thinking when it comes down to TNA itself and what they're doing as of right now that seems that we're pointing into the direction of a sale?
Well, we've been hearing a lot over the last couple of weeks, a lot of changes going along with TNA. And we know that TNA is trying to get themselves into a further mind share, starting off with the TV deal with AMC. So that kind of helps out a lot. We know that also before that, we know that there is the working relationship with WWE and TNA between those two. But now we're also hearing that there's been a lot of change in the front office. And we start way back with Scott D'Amore, who was responsible for getting the WWE's attention with TNA as far as that goes and in working in conjunction with them, but also getting TNA back to where they were after the chaos that was the Dixie Carter and all of the stuff that happened afterwards and the Panda Energy stuff going away and getting them to where they were after the pandemic. So we now know they've changed up. They're no longer Impact Wrestling. They're back to TNA. They're getting their in-ring product a little bit better now, although we've bemoaned the sound issues that they've had on their show and some of the lighting, the small crowds, etc. But it's working in a different way. Now, we know front office-wise that a lot of changes happen. And part of that is with booking. The head booker for the most part with TNA has been Tommy Dreamer, who has been in the company on and off for the last 10, 15 years. He is no longer in the company right now, and he has kind of moved on. He didn't want to be cut or fired or move away from the job because he loves TNA. He wants it to succeed and things are going on. The actual quote that TNA used is that TNA Wrestling has announced a workforce reduction designed to streamline operations and sharpen strategic focus and profitability. That's nothing but marketing gobbledygook for future endeavors, roster cuts, save money, blah, blah, blah. That's what that usually means. So Tommy Dreamer is gone. We also know that as far as booking goes, Delirious, who we know as Hunter Johnson, who's also very, very close with Jim Cornette, knowing that Jim Cornette many moons ago worked with TNA at some point, did some work there as far as booking goes. He's going to help with booking. Right now, we also know that a couple of other cuts were made. Tessa Blanchard on the wrestling roster, she is no longer in the company now. She has had a kind of like a dual contract between TNA and CMLL. She lives in Mexico. She wants to have a chance to wrestle in Mexico and do certain things in Mexico, but she's going to be leaving TNA. Also, another big name that's left the company now is Sami Callihan. Now, Sami Callihan, former TNA World Champion, also was making merchandise and T-shirts. He was responsible for that in TNA. He's gone. But also, he worked with booking as well as creative. And a lot of the wrestlers in the back thought that when Dreamer was gone, that Sami Callihan would be the guy bumped up. That's not going to happen. Now, you couple all of that change with the fact that one of the rumors that we've been hearing is that the Road Dogg may come in. Fresh off of his now leaving WWE and being the creator for SmackDown. I don't know what to do with Chelsea. I don't know. What do we do with Chelsea Green? I don't know. He's potentially going to be in TNA as a replacement. But also, if you're looking at that, and then all of the talent that has gone, that has either been cut or left, or etc. Joe Hendry now on the WWE's roster, which was one of the worst kept secrets in all of pro wrestling. Jordynne Grace is in WWE now. We know about Myla Grayson and Danny Luna, two talents that probably should never have been gone from this company. And then you're looking at Mike Santana, whose contract is going to be up by the end of the summer. WWE, I'm sure they have their eyeballs on him, as well as AEW would look to bring him in. All of those factors coming in, it makes you wonder what the end game is for TNA. My personal opinion is I don't have any inside information as far as this goes, as I think that WWE is probably looking to maybe purchase this company and literally make this their third brand. over NXT. And because they would have instant roster of people to bring up to the main roster, you bring some guys over, the seasoning that they did with Trick Williams and some of the other talent that they did with their talent exchange, move that on board and see where they go from there. But also, Carlos Silva is not really well liked by not only guys in TNA, but it's seemingly we remember the things that happened with MJF, who was supposed to have a match with a TNA wrestler, which was canceled at the behest of what we think is WWE on some level. I think that's where they're headed with this. And I think that if in the long run we're going to see this, I think that's where they're headed with TNA, getting them where they are. And I think the next big domino to fall will be what happens with Leon Slater, because his contract comes up, I believe, this year. And I'm sure if he's not going to be in TNA long term, WWE's probably already got something waiting for him. He's already wrestled on WWE television and NXT. He's already wrestled on Saturday Night's Main Event on national television before. I think that either WWE or AEW would throw money at him to get him to be on their television show. But I think WWE would probably be the front runner if he decides to go at some point.
If he decides to go, or if the money's already being thrown at him as of right now.
Exactly.
You're backing in the Brinks truck, peeps. You should have known this. But
yes.
You know what? All in all, I appreciate your sense of description, and I'll just say this to end the show. When we see things like this happening in the world of professional wrestling, we automatically think one of two things: either WWE has their hands on it, or the company's just depleting. I would pray that it's most likely the number one thing, because at this point, if it's number two, it would suck to see TNA go ahead and have a fall so quickly after just seeing a reunification of Arise. And as of right now, like you said, Carlos Silva isn't really liked, especially by the pro wrestling community and maybe by his confidants within TNA. But all in all, it seems like he is working for a higher power, and that higher power is WWE. And if WWE is preparing to go ahead and open up their subsidiary book and their books at all, just to go ahead and buy TNA, then okay, another library for them to have, another amount of contracts for them to deduct and keep in place. But what will it mean for the future? We have yet to see, even if they do complete a sale. Because right now, as we always usually say, competition is great for pro wrestling, but why would it be great if it's going to be monopolized? That's all I'll have to say. But on a day like this, guys, this marks the end of today's show. We appreciate you guys for going ahead and tuning in. And to the Peeps Nation, I appreciate you for coming back this week and helping as much as possible. Because again, you did your thing, at least getting yourself back up to speed. I'm still watching. Yes. I'm still watching it. But still, all in all, to the fans, we thank you for tuning in on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. We will definitely see you next week for the next upcoming show. But it's like this on a day like this, on a good Saturday afternoon like this, that I had a phenomenal one.
And I, the Peeps Nate, and for Mr. 411, we came.
We saw.
And in the words of the visionless Paul Heyman,
send us home, peeps. Look, you didn't do it last week.
We conquered.
We conquered, ladies and gentlemen. See you next week. Peace. Love. Farewell. Extra.